Adam Catzavelos has been sentenced to a fine of 50,000 rand or 2 years imprisonment, suspended for 5 years by the Randburg Magistrates Court. Catzavelos pleaded guilty to crimen injuria in December last year, you'll remember, following 2 unsuccessful bids to have the charges withdrawn. The case follows a self-recorded video of Catzavelos in which he utters the K word multiple times while on holiday in Greece in August 2018. In the video, he is seen celebrating the absence of black people on the beach. Let's bring in now Chriselda Lewis, live for us at the Randburg Magistrates Court. Chriselda, reaction?
All right, breaking news here on the SABC News channel. Just moments ago, the Randburg Magistrates Court slapping Adam Catzavelos with a 50,000 rand fine or 2 years in jail, wholly suspended. That's the verdict of this court. You would recall, of course, during those live proceedings, the magistrate, Chriselda, saying she had to take into account several of the arguments that had come through here in this court, taking into account his personal circumstances. She believes that Seth Mazibuko, you'd recall, who is the director at the Seth Mazibuko Foundation, where Adam Catzavelos is currently doing his community service. She believes that the sentiment that he shared, that he does express emotion and is sorry for the utterances that he made using the K word, of course, that went viral while on holiday in Greece. The magistrate does seem to believe that Adam Catzavelos would rather be outside prison and rather be spending time, as she said, doing community service around people that he offended. So let's get some reaction to this. You'll recall, of course, the EFF's Mandisa Mashiro brought this case to the Randburg Magistrates Court. She also, of course, testified in the sentencing arguments last week and basically said that should, racism be criminalized in South Africa, she wouldn't expect anything less than 10 years in prison for Adam Catzavelos. Let's join now Mandisa Mashiro. Thank you very much indeed for your time, Sis Mandisa. Let's get your reaction, first of all, to the court's sentencing.
No, thank you very much. I'm also very grateful, and I must state that up front to the prosecutor, Mr. Ninkonsur, who handled this case with a lot of efficiency, quite contrary to what we see the NPA and generally prosecutors, handling especially poor people's cases and black people's cases and women's cases that normally actually just get, messed up in courts and justice is never really truly served. The only reservation I have is really in terms of the duration of time. I think in South Africa, justice is not swift and therefore justice is often denied because it's so delayed. However, that said, I'm grateful that, the magistrate actually explained herself thoroughly before she actually gave us the actual sentence, because the reality is that until racism is officially and in the books of law criminalized, because most South Africans don't realize that racism is not criminalized and it must be criminalized as a form of reparation to black people, not only in South Africa, beyond the borders of South Africa, across Africa. It's extremely important that Parliament starts to get itself ready with the business of criminalizing this thing, because it limits the courts. The judge really could only give him a sentence in relation to crimen injuria, and that obviously is not enough. In terms of the sentence itself, considering the Equality Court went ahead with the process, obviously he has been punished in material terms, and of course the judge acknowledges his remorse. I had my own reservations about whether or not I believe he's genuinely remorseful, but I also think that beyond community service in black communities, what is more important is sensitization work in white communities amongst white people, because that is where the privilege and the power of privilege gives white people more authority to actually believe that it's their right to be racist, express racism, and treat black people with utter racism without even considering, as Adam had initially said, that he said what he said without even thinking, which must tell you how involuntary actions of racism are and how deep-seated they are, therefore justifying my assertions that 400 years of oppression can't take away, racism and attitudes of white people of superiority overnight. We need different mechanisms. Of course, economic liberation for black people, specifically for black women, as I always emphasize, is the most important. That is the ultimate solution to dealing with this racism, because we all know that had Adam's businesses not collapsed, had he not lost material benefits after what he did, I doubt he would have been as remorseful or would have been forced to face his actions the way he ultimately did. So we accept the outcome of the case, and we are actually happy that it has finally reached closure, because it has honestly taken way too long. It could have been much swifter. This case really, in a normal functional environment, shouldn't have taken longer than 3 months at best.
Do you think that today's sentence serves as a deterrent, though, to others who might still have that attitude towards black people in South Africa?
I don't think it will. For us to deal with deterrence, like I said, racism must be criminalized in the books of law. So there must be an actual law saying that racism is a crime. That will empower judges to mete out the adequate sentences. That's the first thing. But the second thing is that 50,000 Rand coupled with the other 250,000 Rand that he's paying off in installments of 5,000 Rand is not adequate for deterrent, because you must consider the condition of white people in South Africa. 80% of the land belongs to white people in South Africa, and land equals assets, land equals wealth, land equals economic prosperity in a compounded way. So when you own land, you are able to make money for yourself and your family for many, many generations to come. And therefore, a person who generally has land can afford 50,000 Rand. They can go to the bank and get an additional bond or extend their bond. 50,000 Rand is really nothing to the average white person in South Africa. We know that the poverty rate amongst white people is what? There's less than 50,000 poor white people compared to the almost 5 million population of white people. And therefore, the 50,000 Rand is not deterrent, nor is the 250,000 Rand deterrent. We need racism to be specifically criminalized. We must remember that the magistrate could only really give him a sentence in relation to crime and injuria, which is a lesser and different matter to racism. And so that struggle to criminalize racism must continue. And so I believe that the better work that Adam can do to convince me, at least, that he has done something, or rather his remorse is genuine, is if he goes to the white community where the problem comes from. You can't continuously talk to the victim and say, I apologize to the victim. What about the source of the problem? The source of the problem needs to be dealt with. And so I put out a challenge to Adam that he must go and do work amongst his redneck, right-wing friends, family members, colleagues, whoever he hangs out with in the white community, to do work and talk about racism and really convince us that he's trying to do something about the problem in a more constructive way.
Sis Madisha, I'm going to off-ramp just a little bit. Are you still the leader of the EFF in Gauteng?
Yes, I am for now.
For now?
Yes.
Are you planning on leaving?
I am not willing to discuss my internal matters with the EFF in public.
But currently, so reports that you've dumped the EFF in Gauteng are not true, categorically.
So firstly, I think the Sunday world really should be ashamed of themselves, because they focus on sensationalism in the midst of the massive socio-economic problems we have. Corruption in the state is massive. It's unbridled. It's uncontrollable. It's costing poor people a lot dearly. And so I think the Sunday world, really having published articles without even consulting me in the first instance, have also violated my rights. But I do not wish to discuss this matter in public at all, because it will not be respecting the EFF as an organization which has many, many members, and they deserve respect. The constitution of the EFF clearly states that EFF members may not discuss internal matters of the EFF on any public platform, and I want to respect that. And so really, with all due respect, I do not want to discuss it any further. Myself and the EFF are in conversation about whatever matters we need to discuss. Yes, there are matters that we are in discussion about.
But issues that you're unhappy about?
No, not necessarily issues that I'm unhappy about, but I'm saying that any matters between myself and the EFF are in discussion between myself and the EFF, and I'm not willing to bring the public into it. And I think that the public must also respect that the EFF has got its own internal policies and rules, and as members of the EFF, we must be the first people to respect those. And so I want to leave that question at that.
So you're still you are still leader of the EFF?
Yes, I'm a member of the EFF.
And leader of the EFF?
I'm a member of the EFF.
Member.
I want to leave it at that.
Mandisa Mashiko, thank you very much indeed for your time. Mandisa Mashiko, of course, who says she is still a member member of the Economic Freedom Fighters. Of course, you would know that there had been several reports there about whether she had left the EFF, whether she was on good terms with the leadership of the EFF, the national leadership of the EFF. I had to throw that in as well just to get some clarity on that. She does admit, of course, that she does have some issues that she's discussing with the EFF at the moment, not wanting to go much deeper into that. But let's bring it back again. A 50,000 rand fine slapped for Adam Catzavelos, or 2 years in prison, suspended wholly. Of course, he'll be paying that 50,000 rand, but Mandisa Mashigo saying that at this stage, while they welcome the thorough judgment, the sentencing of the magistrate Hleziphi Mkhasibe, what they would rather expect or what they rather want to see at the end of the day is for racism in South Africa to be criminalized so that heftier sentences could be meted out against people who would otherwise use the offensive K word towards black South Africans. So breaking news here on the channel, 50,000 rand slapped against Adam Catzavelos, or 2 years in prison, suspended wholly.
All right, Chriselda Lewis live for us at the Randburg Magistrates Court.